Good afternoon, everyone. We did a really terrific Facebook Live this morning with some of the organizers of the recent protests in Harrisburg. We talked about the past, present, and future of the Black Lives Matter movement here in the capital city, and I'd encourage people to check that out. You can tune in for all of our Facebook Lives Fridays at noon. And you can also see the replay on our YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/WHBG20. So at the beginning of that meeting, as I do every week, I made some general announcements, and several of them were very important and late breaking, happened literally in the minutes before coming over to the studio, so I wanted to also reinforce them here today at this press conference. This morning we announced that late last night the city was emailed information regarding certain social media postings by one of the trainees at the police academy for Harrisburg. Those didn't come until about 9 p.m. last night. I worked with command staff to investigate this until the early hours of the morning, and the individual was called in and interviewed first thing this morning. During the course of the interview, it became clear that these accounts had not been disclosed as they should have been per policy at the time of the application to become a Harrisburg police officer. And on top of that, the content was clearly racist, completely inappropriate, and we took decisive and swift action terminating the police cadet from the academy just before noon this morning. That was one of several things that had transpired very recently. The second bit that I wanted to make the media and the public aware of is that there have now been 2 arrests for, in terms of protesters for actions that happened on Saturday. One arrest was by the Capitol Police for one of the protesters who threw a brick at them, and the other arrest was by the Harrisburg Police for the individual that smashed the back window of the police car 219. That is not the same person that hit the front window of the car 219 with the flag. That individual is still somebody that is a person of interest that we're looking for and looking to identify for, and we've sent photographs of that individual to surrounding municipalities and other departments. It's possible we may release that publicly, but for now, I have reviewed video footage and body cam footage of the incident, and I can confirm as well that the flag that was used to break the windshield, which incited a lot of the violence that then occurred, was indeed an Antifa flag. I also wanted to talk a little bit that some of the evidence is clearly suggesting that the police were not the only people to deploy pepper spray at the rally on Saturday. There's been a lot of speculation on social media that some of the protesters may have added to the confusion by using pepper spray themselves, and it appears from the video footage that that did indeed occur, and we have individuals that we're looking for as well. And that information is all being shared with surrounding municipalities. After those announcements, I went on to talk for a little bit, and the real reason that we're meeting here today in part is to discuss President Barack Obama's challenge to U.S. mayors to review their own use of force directives and general orders, have a conversation with the public, and look for and work together for meaningful reform. There is a website called the useofforceproject.org, which documents a lot of best practices and talks about 8 reforms which all police departments should make regarding their use of force. 8 specific reforms that can lead to a decrease in violence between police officers and civilians. The movement generally goes under the hashtag 8CantWait. And that has been trending ever since President Barack Obama made this challenge earlier in the week. I can say that I have reviewed Harrisburg's use of force general order. I had before, but I did again in light of the current conversation, the challenge from President Barack Obama. And we currently address 7 of the 8 best practices in the written general order. And I just want to say very briefly here, those 8 things that are strongly suggested for all police departments around the country are the following. 1, that the general order requires de-escalation, and that is very clearly required and stated in our general order. 2, that general orders ban chokeholds, and our general order bans chokeholds. 3, that general orders restrict the shooting at moving vehicles, and our general order does that. I will note that there is sometimes a conversation about whether or not shooting at moving vehicles should be banned outright rather than just restricted. And that is a conversation that we can have, but ours only allows it in very limited circumstances, such as a moving vehicle threatening the life of another individual. Number 4, it asks that police departments develop a use of force continuum. This is something that Harrisburg has and has developed and is a part of the general order. Number 5, that all other means are exhausted before deploying deadly force. That is in the general order. Number 6, that we require a verbal warning. And that is in the general order, and you can see that in the sort of continuum of response. But that is an aspect of the general order that I think we could strengthen. What does a verbal warning mean? I've heard a lot of concern expressed recently that there wasn't enough warning from police officers. But that is a conversation that we can have. But it is in the general order. Number 7, that it require police departments to file a use of force reports every time force is used, and that is something that we also do in Harrisburg. So the 8th term, and the one which is not specifically identified in our use of force policy, has to do with requiring officers to intervene if they see the use of excessive force. While it is not explicitly in our current general order, it is taught at the academy. And I will note that it is in very recent history in Harrisburg, we actually had one of our officers step up and intervene against the use of excessive force by another department, testified at the trial, and convicted the individual who had used excessive force. So it is something that we believe and practice in Harrisburg, but that's the type of thing that we can write into the general orders. At any rate, we've disseminated to the media a copy of the latest general order, as well as a sort of brief statement directing them to language for each of the various 8 challenges, so to speak. And we've set up an email. The email is 8cantwait@harrisburgpa.gov. That's the number 8, cant, C-A-N-T, wait, W-A-I-T, @harrisburgpa.gov. And the reason we set the email up is because I want to hear from the public, and I want to hear from individuals after they've had an opportunity to review the use of force document, which is a pretty in-depth and serious document. I want to hear their suggestions and ideas. And that's part of this continuing conversation. We discussed it a little bit this morning on Facebook Live. We're putting the word out today. I'm opening up this email. We'll discuss it with City Council, and we will have what I hope will be a series of revisions, very specific revisions to this policy that will benefit everyone in the weeks to come. So that is how the City of Harrisburg is stepping up to the 8 Can't Wait Challenge. That is also some of the breaking news that has happened here in the very recent past. I want to share all those messages with you, and I have time to take questions if there are any from the media.
We have a question from the Burg. At the Facebook Live, some people expressed concern that the 8th recommendation of the 8 Can't Wait isn't addressed. Do you plan to discuss changing this?
Yes, that is the whole point. What we are starting the conversation now by releasing the general order as it currently stands, as well as an analysis of what we've done. I will note there are many cities, and if you go to the website I mentioned earlier about it basically shows the use of force policies of cities throughout the country, and many of them don't even have 7 out of the 8. They have many fewer. We have 7 out of the 8 already, and we can definitely add number 8 because it is something which is practiced by HPD. It's just not something which is codified in the general order. And I think that was the purpose of President Obama's challenge. It was to spark a conversation that would lead to measurable reforms and changes to the order. So it's not just that one. I mentioned some others. I think there are others that we mentioned that we could reinforce, redefine, expand upon. All of this input is exactly what we're asking the media to help us disseminate by getting that email out there, the 8 Can't Wait @harrisburgpa.gov, to encourage people to read the policy and then to write back with suggested changes and additional language. At the end of the conversation, there will definitely be a rewrite of the general order, and hopefully it will incorporate all of those comments. And the goal here is just to bring as many people into the conversation as possible.
Question from CBS 21. How is the Harrisburg Police Department responding to this campaign?
To which campaign? The 8 Can't Wait? Yeah, very helpfully. Our general orders have been up for some time on the city's website. Not many people look at them or check them out. I think one of the positive aspects of the recent marches and protests and attention is that people are interested in policy. They're interested in what they can do to make a difference and to help bring about change. And here is a good example. We're encouraging people to read the general order. We're encouraging them to email comments and suggestions, and then through that process, we're going to end up with a better product, and hopefully one that will lead to even greater protections for the public and an even better relationship between the police and the community. But you've got to start with what's there, and we've disclosed that what's there is 7 of the 8, and there's certainly room for improvement, and I'm committed to making sure that happens.
Okay, if there are no other questions on this, we can expand that to any other questions. I see a question from CBS 21. What will outdoor dining look like tomorrow?
It should look good. The no parking signs have already been up. I know from speaking to a number of the residents that and restaurateurs and other property owners that everyone's excited. This is the first chance for Harrisburg to go out and dine in quite some time. I know some of the places that have been taking reservations have actually seen a wonderful outpouring of support. Over the past week, we've done a number of things. We've worked with individual restaurants in their getting letters together to the LCB and elsewhere to make sure this event is successful. I know the DID has done a lot of work strategizing the layout. We also added we've added a new restaurant since the last press release, and I'll mention that. That's Tres Cubanos down on Conoy Street in Shipoke, and a little portion of Conoy Street is going to be blocked off during the time. In terms of the public, you can begin to see the street blockades go up probably between about 3:30 and 4:30, certainly up by 5 o'clock. And the event, which will run at least from 6 to 9, probably till 10, and close shortly thereafter, we're hoping will be a great success. One message I did want to get out there was that if there are other restaurants that are interested in participating, we very much would like to hear from you, and there is room to include additional locations as part of a plan. But this is a restaurant-driven plan. It requires restaurants to have a social distancing plan and to need to utilize the street space to be able to adequately serve the outdoor diners. So get in touch with us. You can email the mayor's office at mayor@harrisburgpa.gov, and perhaps as this moves forward into June, we'll have additional restaurants also joining the fold. But right now, Downtown Improvement District all the way from Market to Pine, a little section of State Street outside of Cork and Fork, a little section of North Street outside of Manchaquis and Rubicon, and a small section of Conoy Street outside of Tres Hermanos.
I believe at this time there are no further questions.
Well, that's great. I appreciate everyone's time. I know it's a busy time for a lot of people, and there's a lot of news. We appreciate your help, and I think this is something that the media, by partnering with the city in disseminating this information, can help make sure that the dialogue that we want to see occurs and is effective and leads to change. So thank you for helping us get the word out about 8 Can't Wait.